Yeah, you several times when we've spoken have said your aim is to smash the gangs and so on the small boats crossings. We've hit the 5,000 crossings mark earlier than ever before. Shouldn't we get our own house in order before we try to be leader of the pack?
Well, the networks, the criminal gang networks that end up with people arriving in the UK stretch back through northern France, through Germany, across Europe, to places like the hills of Kurdistan or the money markets in Kabul. So you need to tackle this as a global problem. But in terms of the channel, we have now new agreements with France, that France have now changed their rules so that for the first time they're prepared to take action in French waters.
But
now, the previous government...
We spent 500 million on the French. Are we getting value for money?
Well, we've changed the agreements with France now in a couple of important ways. So, for many years, the previous government has tried to persuade France to take action in French waters, and that hasn't happened. The French government has now changed the rules. Their cabinet has changed the rules so that they can now intervene in French waters to prevent these dangerous boat crossings. I think that's really important. That will be operationalised later this year. They're also going to bring in a new sort of elite police unit. It's similar to the one that operated during the Olympics and was successful in tackling boat crossings during the Olympics. That's going to be brought in May, and they're strengthening the resources along the French coast. That is part of the work that we've been doing with France, and it's alongside our work here in the UK to reduce illegal working and to reduce the way in which the gangs are making promises. That partnership is really important because ultimately this is effectively a global war on the criminal smuggler and trafficking gangs.
One other way in which we might tackle the problem of illegal immigration is by deterrence. How close are you to a third country deal with Albania that's been reported that you're talking about?
Well, we already have return agreements with Albania, and that's an important part of the system. We're also working across the board to increase our returns everywhere. That's why we've got the 20% increase in returns already as a result of the work that we're doing.
This is a slightly different kind of deal. It's not just about returns. It's about processing. It's about basically telling people who think they're going to get here and stay here illegally, no, you're not. You're going to go to Albania. Bracket, let's forget Rwanda, but somewhere else.
So I think what you're talking about is the arrangement, obviously, that Italy and Albania have set up, which we've always said we will look at. I've talked to the Italian Interior Minister about their arrangements.
And would you like to have the same deal for us?
We will always look at what works. So we've been very clear about that. We will always look at what works. But it has to be practical things that will work, not the gimmicks. What we saw with Rwanda was £700 million be spent on sending 4 volunteers to Rwanda. We'll always make sure that our approach is about what works, and that's why our focus is on tackling the criminal gangs and the networks that organise this.
But to be clear, we are talking to Albania or some other countries about that kind of deal. David Blunkett said, one of your predecessors said, why don't we draw up a list of safe countries with whom we can have this sort of deal? So are you talking to Albania or any other country about that Italian-style deal?
We've talked to the Italian government about the arrangements that they have, and we've always said we'll look at what works. We're also talking to the EU Commission, who are interested in different approaches around return hubs. That's the kind of thing that you're talking about. But our central focus is on the borders, the summit, the Organised Immigration Crime Summit, and on tackling the criminal gangs. We will continue to look at different approaches that, if they have a practical impact and if they can work, to prevent these dangerous boat crossings which undermine our border security and put lives at risk.